Welcome. This is the second Japanese journey live stream in 2 weeks. It's a new record. Before that, it was one in 3 years. I'm glad you're here. So, for the beginning, please let me know where you're from, where you're now at, which part of the world. Last time, some people mentioned that, and it was really impressive to see like everybody's from everywhere essentially. So today's topic is how I became a martial arts teacher in Japan. And after that, let's talk about a couple of more things and then go into some questions and so on you have. But interrupt me at any time. Just ask whatever you want to know. So about the story. So I tell this first and quickly because for the people that will see the recording of this live stream, then they get what they came for. I mentioned before, I started practicing Aikido. German in Australia, that's great. So I started practicing Aikido when I was 17 in 2004, and I continued until I moved to Japan. So my teacher was Japanese as well, my eventual teacher. Hey Nico, nice to see you. Long time no see. Nico is a friend of mine from back in what is that? Middle school, is that maybe in English? So I practiced Aikido, going back to story, sorry for the interruptions. Practiced Aikido until I came here. Then in Nagano it was a little bit more difficult to find a good place to train. And then after 1 year I moved to Tokyo. And on the first night moving here, Tokyo area actually, so I live in Yokohama. On the first night, I went to I moved in December, early December, and I moved to a Bonenkai. Bonenkai is the year-end party of Aikido friends, essentially. So came here, moved there to the party, and there then some friends asked me where I'm now, and turned out I'm pretty close to a school where one of my senpai is teaching. And so from that time on, I started going there once a week, every Saturday. And interestingly, that night, so my first night in Tokyo, and also the first night I missed the last train, which was pretty unfortunate. But then that guy, I went with another friend who's also practicing in that group with a taxi, and he actually showed me a good sushi place, so that was good. Hey Vishak, nice to see you. Nice to see you writing. Nice to have you here. Then I practiced there a little bit, and after sometimes the senpai had to go to foreign countries or travel a little bit for work. So then he would ask me to take over. And eventually after 1 year, so training through 2018, after 1 year, he asked me if I could take over the training because he would be too busy in 2019. And that's what I did. And that's how I became a martial arts teacher in Japan. It's a very simple story. So generally, it's not something prestigious or something. So I think this group is not officially recognized by the Aikikai, which is like the biggest organization for Aikido in the world. And I'm teaching only once a week, so actually it's not that spectacular. But because you have been waiting now for me explaining all this, so actually this one is from my wife. It's my wife's practice sword, which is also the one in the thumbnail. So that's not a stock image, that's actually a real one. So this is the weapon. It's a little bit short for me, so it's like this long. And it's not sharp, and it's also not to be sharpened. So in Japan, the weapon regulations are very strict, so you cannot own a sharp sword except if it's a national treasure. So if you bring something here, then it will be given to a commission, and if they say that's not a national treasure, it's not worth essentially being here, then it will be taken to the police and they will destroy it. So take care. This, however, is not sharp, and if you try to sharpen this material, I think it will break. So it's more or less safe, so I can touch it here and nothing happens. However, it's still like the tip is a little bit dangerous maybe, but that's generally how it works. And as a side note, today I saw somebody with tattoos, and always from the reality TV show that is the US. Oh, that's sarcastic. But I guess with your president, it kind of connects. So today I saw a man with tattoos, and I wasn't sure if he was Yakuza. So usually Yakuza have tattoos until here, so that if they wear short sleeves, you can sometimes see them, and it was about the same. But his legs were a little bit too long, so it was down to the ankles, which is not so typical, I think. Sorry for the shake. So I wasn't sure, but speaking of Yakuza always have to cut off some part of the limbs, right? If they do something bad, and that's exactly because of this. So because the baby finger is very important for having a good grip on the sword. And also if it's drawn like this. So the baby finger and the thumb, this area of the thumb are very important. And that's how you get the sword out neat and easily. So with all of this being said, I'm not an expert for swords, so don't trust me too much. That's about all I know. Of course, I can use it a little bit, but that's not my specialty. My hair looks great, thank you. Yeah, so it was getting a little long, so I did another COVID-19 cut. So I took the shaving machine and just shaved off the sides, and that's it. Now I look a little bit long. Now I look a little bit like a soccer player. At least that's what my wife is saying. And then, yeah, now, yeah, that's it. So essentially just cut off the sides. And that's also that for the... Are you fluent in Japanese yet? Oh, that's a great question. No, I'm not. I mean, it depends on what you see as fluent, but so no, I don't think so. I have obviously strong areas like, let's say, casual conversation is strong because my wife is Japanese and we talk casually, and she doesn't speak English or German. So what else should I do, right? And if you are in a situation where you have to speak the language, otherwise you cannot communicate, then you improve really fast. But if I'm in a business setting where usually, at least in my company, everybody should speak English, should be able to speak English, then it's not so necessary to improve, and accordingly my Japanese is not as good. That being said, I'm trying, I'm giving my best. Also for reading, I'm not so strong, so I'm practicing a lot now. Yeah, if it's a good day, maybe 3-4 hours a day. Yes, and it's true. I always wanted to be a soccer player, yeah. So now I have at least a haircut. Not the money and not the job, but the haircut. You get the light a little closer. Now, one more thing about the previous live stream. So the previous live stream I put online once it was done for 48 hours, and then I took it off. However, it's available in the live stream playlist, which is linked in the comment on this, the top comment on this live stream as well. And you will also be able to find this live stream, not stream, and the first one I ever did 3 years ago in this playlist as well. So if you have the time later, maybe take a look if you're interested. It's pretty hard for me to watch myself, especially with 3 years old, so that's a little bit cringy. But maybe for you it's interesting. Why do you have a dressing gown on? Yeah, I see. Yeah, let's see. So essentially, like I said, just shave this off, and if I don't put anything in my hair, some product or something, then it's like, looks like a, what's the word? Kinoko in English? Mushroom, essentially. Now that's done. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is, so I finally decided to do a Patreon. I don't know if anybody will actually support me there, but so the channel is about 50% of the cost this channel is producing is covered by the money I get from Google for ads. And now with this Patreon, I hope to get it to 0 or so. And if it gets even more, then I can go out a little more and hopefully eventually explore more of Japan and show it to you. Stephen Budo. By the way, Stephen, I didn't recognize this, let's say, play of words with your last name until you said goodbye last time. So heads off, I guess. I'm not wearing a yukata, actually, it's a jimbe. So jimbe is like a summer clothing in Japan. It's a little short here, It has some openings here so that air can flow through. Maybe, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe here. And it's like this. So, and then you have shorts which are similar. And this is fantastic when it's hot, like now. That being said, not too many people wear it outside, especially not foreigners, or maybe just foreigners. But I always think, okay, everybody in Japan wears yofuku, which is European style clothing. So why can I not wear wafuku, which is Japanese style clothing? At least when I wear it outside. But I don't do that too often. Usually you see this like on festivals or something, omatsuri. But this year there are none, so I have to wear it now. And I thought it's kind of connected, kind of optically at least connected to the sword. So that's why I put it on as well. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know, because that's all I wanted to say. So, and while you're hopefully typing, the next video will be out maybe tomorrow or tonight. I'm not sure. I'm almost done, but it's only 2 minutes. And it will be about what is Japan, which is, of course, a very essential question. But since it's only 2 minutes, you can imagine it's not too hard to answer. Still interesting, I think. A lot of animated elements in there, so hopefully you will enjoy it visually. That's the first question. Vishak is struggling with kanji and its readings at the moment. It's really confusing as hell. Do you have any tips? So wait a second. Let me get a book. I mentioned these last week. So I did the remembering the kanji, which this is the German version. The English one looks a little bit different. For remembering the meanings of kanji. And then this one for getting a little bit of the readings connected to it. So that's like 1,000 very essential words, which I all know from them when I hear them and when I read them in kana. But when I see the kanji, I didn't for some of them. So that's why I went through this, which was kind of okay. But when I get really the connection is when I see it in a context that means something to me. So when, thankfully, I'm in Japan. So when I go outside, I see a lot of kanji in the train anywhere. And then when I see this connection, when I see it, I understand the meaning. And then by that, the reading, or I look it up, then it's much easier for me to get it next time. And to also simulate this in my private learning is I just read content that is from Japanese for Japanese, essentially, like manga or something. Or you can also watch anime with Japanese anime with Japanese subtitles. And that helps me a lot, actually. So I started watching YouTube in Japanese, made a new channel. Then I searched for content and so on. But the searching for content took so long. I just started watching Netflix and started to do One Piece from the beginning. And One Piece is super long. So that's a lot of content for me to watch without searching anything in the foreseeable future. And it has subtitles. And also, I mean, they don't talk too polite. So you shouldn't talk to your superior or so like that. But, you know, no idiot, so you won't do that. And hey, kids, servus. And you get a lot of Japanese, and there are also like different levels of politeness and so on used, because not always the pirates are talking, but also like a king is talking, or servants of the king and so on. So you get a lot of facets of the culture or of the language, and you get the subtitles because it's Netflix. And I think you can definitely watch it in Japanese in your country because it's a Japanese original. You can, in one of my previous videos, which was about MIA and how I'm learning Japanese with MIA, I quickly showed how you can switch your Netflix to Japanese. And if you do that, then you should find lots of content. And hopefully, if you do that, then also be able to get the readings in. What I found very difficult is if I try to get everything, especially when reading, because it's easier to focus on really getting everything. And that's so tiring and frustrating at times because I don't know. And even if I look it up, I don't understand. And then I will ask my wife and she says, I don't know. It's just there. It doesn't have meaning. It doesn't have a purpose, but it does, of course. So getting over this frustration by watching anime is you don't have the time to be super obsessed about one thing because the next thing comes and lets you forget easily. And then after some time you hear it and hear it again, maybe. then it's worth your attention, and eventually you get it. We're having a watch party, by the way. Oh, that's great. Who's there? So any other questions so far? If not, then I will just continue talking about the other upcoming videos. So in the distant future, I did some research, like where could I go in Tokyo, because I want to show you more. Of course, current situation doesn't allow so much. Searched anyway, and I found one place which has the only waterfall, like waterfall of an extent that can be called waterfall, in central Tokyo, which is an artificial one, and it belongs to a hotel. So I thought, oh, waterfall is nice. I also have a nice garden. So I contacted the hotel, and they said, sure, come and film. So that's coming up. So I will film around the garden, which is pretty spectacular, like more than 400 years old. Like beautiful bridges, waterfall, like I said, houses and surroundings and everything. Then the hotel itself has like rooms with hinoki, that's Japanese cypress bath spaces, which I like a lot. It smells fantastic. You cannot smell it, obviously, but I will show it to you. I will also have access to the bar for some reason. And that's coming up in the future. Actually, I wanted to film it on Friday, but then they needed to reschedule because it's kind of busy for them now. So I'm not sure when it will be eventually, but hopefully next month, this month in August. And then after that, maybe after that, I so many of you asked me to make another house tour. I did that in 2017. And eventually now I contacted a house company. They focus on building houses, which is called Kobo Shinshu, which is my favorite. So I checked a lot of them, actually, a lot of different house construction companies back when I was living in Nagano until the end of 2017. And they are by far my favorite. They have like open spaces and everything made out of wood, so no cheap material and so on. And they have, yeah, it's just great. Looks fantastic. Usually they have the backdrop of the Japanese Alps because it's in Nagano. This company only builds in the Nagano prefecture. And also I contacted them and they said I could come and film one of their model houses. However, this was right in the beginning of the crisis, Corona crisis, like maybe April or so. So the deal was, okay, you can come as soon as we open again, which might be anytime. So this is coming up, but still not sure when. And speaking of Corona, Japan cases are surging again. So we had 472 yesterday, which was an absolute all-time high, only in Tokyo. Previously, it was always like 200 is pretty high. Now it was 470. Today it was 292. So down again. Hopefully it stays that way, but probably not, because usually it goes down on the weekend because more people are taking holidays and not every doctor is in the clinic to take tests. So that's usually the reason. So probably tomorrow it will be up again. And many prefectures are considering the state of emergency. Okinawa just announced they have it again, maybe 2 days ago, after having 72 cases, so not a lot. And that's the current state. Then also apparently there are considerations to this time have penalties. So until now it's all kind of voluntarily. So for example, they asked companies that serve alcohol, like restaurants, bars, to close after 10 p.m. And if they do that, they get 2 million yen, which is about $20,000. So it's not like if you don't do this, you pay, but if you do it, you get money. And this might change. So it might be like you get if you do it, you get money, but if you don't do it, you have to pay. So a little bit of a change going on there. I think this was also because there have been issues in the previous state of emergency with some pachinko parlors and so on that did not actually follow, because it's not legally binding what the Prime Minister also says. It's just a very strong recommendation. And in order for that not to happen again, they want to do that. Also, the sources apparently, of most of the cases are like host bars and nightclubs and so on, which many of them are in Kabukicho in Tokyo. Apparently, that's what I read today in the news. Yeah, that's the current situation. Papa, Viola, Benna, Ade, Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan, Easy, Richard, Philip, and Anna. Okay, so half of my family is watching right now. So it only says 9 people, 10 people now, but plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, actually 8, actually. Yeah. Thank you for giving me your time and attention, even though it might not be interesting to you. So if anybody has a question, please let me know. Anything? Japan, haircuts, IT jobs. I really like your sense of humor. That's great. Thank you. Sometimes I get comments like so funny. For example, on my first video I've ever made, for some reason it's pretty popular. It has like 500,000 views. It's, I think, my second most popular video, which is about Japanese toilets. A lot of people said it was so funny, and it was absolutely not intended. I just wanted to show the toilets, but for some reason it's fun. And sometimes I try to be sarcastic or something, and it absolutely does. It bombs. Nobody understands it, and I get like, for example, in this house video, I said in the beginning, like most people, Japanese tend to live in houses or apartments. And then a couple of people didn't get it, or maybe they got it and still wanted to comment something, and they said like, where else should they live? Like in caves or something? Yeah. Okay. I understand that. But again, send me any questions. If it's not about haircuts, then maybe IT or working in Japan, living in Japan, anything, future plans for the channel, future plans for anything. Also share with me how you're doing. That's also fine and welcome, because I want to connect with you. Speaking of that, I'm trying to make this maybe a weekly thing. So I enjoyed last week, hopefully this week as well. So far it's going good. And then if I can come up with something to say, some kind of topic, then I think I will do this every Sunday night or so, if I can. Oh, that's even better than a soccer player. So your haircut looks like that of a superhero. I don't know which one, but I think, do you know pigeon? I think it's called pigeon. In Japanese, it's pigeon or something. Like the second evolution of the bird Pokemon has like a similar haircut. Why did you decide to do YouTube videos? Oh, that's a long story. Great. So I started originally. My wife came with me to Germany. I thought I had some great knowledge about Japan, so I wanted to share it. Essentially, help other people, give them tips, advice, and so on. So I started a blog called JapaneseJourney.com because I searched what's available, which domain, and I found this one. So it was Japanese Journey. Also, part of the blog was me learning Japanese. So you see how long this dates back. And I would do like weekly progress reports and challenges for myself. However, it didn't attract too many viewers or readers. So I looked where else I could get like leads from, where else I could get people to access my content. And eventually in September, I decided I'd try YouTube in September. And back then I was already in Japan. So I moved in July. And I did one video, which was about Japanese toilets, like I said. And this one was not so successful. I always checked the statistics and like 1 view or something on a day. And then I thought, okay, I have to do something. And maybe you know Imager, that's an image posting platform. And I essentially cut the videos into individual GIFs, however you want to pronounce it, and made a post about how to use Japanese toilets. And then as a source, I gave my channel name. And I posted that on Imager, and it got to the front page and got like, I don't know, maybe 200,000 views or so, a lot. And this converted into like the first couple of hundred, maybe 200-300, maybe 500 views on the video, and my first 18 subscribers. And obviously this was amazing. I might have also posted it to Reddit and then maybe got like 300 views or something. However, this was great. I mean, for first video to get 800 views, that's pretty spectacular. And after that, for some reason, it also took up again. And like I said, has 500,000 views now. However, so anyway, after that, I said, okay, let's do it again. And every 2 weeks, I would make a video. But this was so slow. So I didn't feel the progress I expected after getting like a couple of hundred views on the first video. I thought the next one should get like 1,000 or so, and then even more. But it wasn't. It was like this and then down and so on. So I thought, okay, let's do it weekly. And then I did weekly for at least until the end of the year. So October, November, December, like 3 months. So it's like 12 weeks. So 12 videos or more every week consistently. And then did I think a 2 weeks break, then continued again. Then I went to Germany in May and then went down a little bit for 2 months or so. And then up again. And now I'm kind of in between. I try to do it weekly, but I don't have the capacity necessarily because I also learn Japanese now, as you know, a lot more intensely. I have a demanding job and family. So yeah, that's that. YouTube is kind of weird like that. Sometimes you'll have only less than 20K subs for months, then suddenly you get 100K in days. Yeah, I do have less than 20K subs for years actually now. So since I started in 2016, and I'm still lower than 20. But then yeah, I've seen this many times actually. Yeah, especially I think if the content is kind of similar, and then one video gets really popular, and then all the viewers start looking at the others. So for example, I had a video which was called Old School Japan, which got like 50,000 views maybe 1 or 2 months ago. And automatically after that, the videos after that get twice the views they would have had before. Like if they had 1,000, they after that they have 2,000 and so on. And if this gets like in kind of a positive recommendation loop for your content to your potential viewers, then of course it's exploding. So yeah, that's that. And like I said, of course, like if it gets onto another platform, like a big platform like Reddit, and gets upvoted in a big subreddit or so, that also helps tremendously to give YouTube the data to understand that your content is actually something people want to see. So if you want to share something of my content anywhere, please do that. Do you want to talk about your finances? No, of course not. I mean, I can talk about the finances of this channel. That's a first start maybe. So I make usually about $100 a month from ad revenue. However, the cost of this channel is roughly about $200. So I have some running costs, which is for music licensing and stock footage for when I talk about something and I want to show something, but don't have the footage, then I get it from a stock footage site, and I have a subscription service. That's two that are running, and then there are changes like gear and so on. So for example, I bought a new light. You can see, I can show it here. Here, that's the light. It's very thin. Looks much better than the previous ones, and things like that. Or I got a new camera. It's not new actually. It was when I got it last year. It was already 2 years old since it was released. But still, there's a lot of cost going on continuously, and it's also never ending. So if you have purchased this part of the gear and then this and then you're at the end and then you have to start again, something like that. So currently the cost is about $2,200, $2,400 a year. So I get about half of the cost from YouTube right now. That's, like I mentioned in the beginning, the reason now I finally decided to do Patreon. However, it's not officially announced, so you are the first people now to know about that. Link is, by the way, in the description of this live stream. I always say live stream, even though I don't talk too loud. I thought YouTubers normally use free use BGMs. Yeah, so there's, for example, the YouTube audio library, but it sounds very generic often, and everybody else has it. So I listen to a lot of content on that So for the audio, because I don't know what BGM means, so I guess it's like either audio or, music, or video. So for audio, I listen to a lot what they have on their site. I favorited a lot before I actually subscribed, and now I use almost exclusively this audio. And for the videos, I actually don't use it so much, so I might cancel it after a year when this contract is over. And I still use a lot of open source. Is it not open? Do we call open source? What do you say? Share like essentially free, but you have to give attribution. That's the word. Pictures essentially. So if I use a picture often instead, sometimes I buy a stock picture, which is pretty expensive. It's like, how much is it? Maybe $20 a picture or so. Yeah, stock things are expensive. Actually, I'm considering to actually sell all this. I took a lot of footage. I took and take a lot of footage, and I could maybe sell some of that on stock pages, but not sure yet. What camera are you using? Oh no, I jumped one. Sorry. How's your day going? It's pretty good. So it's already evening now, but after this, I want to finish one video and maybe go for a run. And until now, I got up pretty late, like after 9. Then we tried to buy a new sofa, which we didn't eventually. We didn't find a good one. We had some burgers for lunch. It was first time at this place, but probably won't go there again. The burgers were good. The place wasn't so much. And that was about my day. Played with the kids, and now I'm live streaming and talking to you. Then what camera are you using? I'm using a GH5. Let me get it. So, oh, no, this is Vegeta, and whenever in the morning, he's like this, then I know we had a small earthquake at night. This is a GH5, Panasonic GH5, which essentially it's a video camera, I think, not a photo camera, even though you have a viewfinder. This was released in 2017, and I bought it last year used for about €1,000, which is maybe $1,100, and only the body. I think new it would be like 2,000 or so originally, so compared to that, it's pretty cheap. Lenses are Sigma 60mm, f1.4. So recently the new videos are all with this lens and this body and this backdrop and the new light, which also makes a big difference. Also have a small new light, which was very cheap, like $20, which only lights this side a little bit. Yeah, so that's the camera. Have you climbed Mount Fuji? Have you climbed the Fuji-san already? No, I haven't. I have a friend who is doing that every year from sea to summit. So usually the highest station you can go to is station number 5. And you can go there by vehicle, essentially. So you go to there and then you start climbing. But he doesn't start from 5 and not from the bottom. He goes way down to the sea. So from the sea in Shizuoka or somewhere, he walks up to the very top. And usually I think you take a bit of water from the sea, and so essentially sea level is the lowest point of Japan, and Mount Fuji is the highest point. So take the water, bring it up there, and then spill it onto the mountain, and then it goes back down to the sea. And I haven't done that yet. I'm sometimes considering it, and whenever I talk to my wife, who also hasn't done it, she's like, yeah, you go ahead, I won't. So I'm not sure. Apparently there's a lot of people doing that, a lot of tourists, like essentially traffic jams when you're trying to go there. I think there's even a vending machine on the top, which is kind of ridiculous, but also pretty Japanese. So not totally unexpected, but funny. And yeah, I'm not sure if I will ever do it. If so, maybe I will take a video. But this camera is heavy, so not sure. I also have some other cameras, by the way. So like the other one I probably use most is my phone, which is a OnePlus 6, already 2 years old. And kind of, it oversaturates tremendously. So I always have to tune it down. And it's a phone camera, so it's not the greatest. And I also have an action camera, which is the Osmo Pocket. But I've used it only once for video right now. I'm planning, however, to use it maybe tomorrow morning. I would like to do a video where I just go from one place with the bike to another one. So now I'm thinking about making a video where I go at the river, so next to the river, then cross a bridge, then go up a mountain and to a park. That's essentially the idea. I'm not sure if I do it like ASMR style, say nothing, or if I give some comment or not. But probably I will try this, and you might be able to see it in the next week or so. I'm trying to move to Japan and currently doing my bachelor's degree. I want to teach English in Japan. Would it be better to apply for the position while you're in Japan or while you're overseas? I think so. If English is your first language, then it shouldn't be a problem to apply from overseas. There are plenty of positions. Generally, there's more if you're here. So you can apply to more. They will sponsor your visa, but not this initial process of getting it. So a friend of mine, Dave Trippin, he also has a YouTube channel. He gives a lot of good advice on that. And he usually says, like, take whatever you can to come here, do it for a year or so to get essentially your foot into the door. And then once you're here, once everything is settled, then look for other career opportunities, like go to other better paying teaching options. So yeah, why not try it when you're not here? I mean, you can do it if you have the chance to come here on a tourist visa at some point. I mean, currently it's probably difficult at some point, or maybe working holiday visa, then why not do that? Then you can also verify if it's actually something you are seeing yourself doing for the foreseeable or longer, more distant future. There's an IKEA in Japan. There is indeed. So the one closest to us is not so far. How much is that? 3 stations from here, and then about 30 minutes IKEA shuttle bus ride, then you're there. I've been there 2 or 3 times. For example, this chair is from IKEA. Yeah, but recently, not yet this year. Oh yeah, Stephen already replied. There are many, yeah. Many, but usually I've never been so close to one. So in Nagano, there's definitely none. So the closest one is in Saitama, I think. And they're usually not too much in the center of Tokyo. But I think they opened one, or some like a light version or something recently. In Nagano, and probably almost everywhere in Japan, they have Nitori, which is kind of the Japanese IKEA. The service is better, I feel, but the products are not. That's my personal feeling. That being said, we have a lot from Nitori because we lived in Nagano and there was no IKEA. And yeah, that's that. I would also like to get some higher quality stuff. Like at least if I have the idea to stay in Japan for a very long time, then I want to have furniture that can live for a very long time, and it will be something I enjoy also in 20 years or so. Right now, that's not the case for all the things we have. There are ramen restaurants on the top. Oh, fantastic. Oh, Mr. Deluxe, nice to see you here. I haven't heard of you since you made the comment on my model career thing video, I think. But I also haven't been on the forum. Mandake. Pretty ugly pull for a long time. I did the climb last year when I was there on a holiday. It was quite amazing and I can highly recommend it. Oh, great. I started the climb from the 5th station and arrived at the top just before sunrise. Yeah, I heard that. I think that's what most people do probably. Go up and then wait a little bit. If you still have time, and then just go there to arrive just when the sun rises and enjoy that. I mean, hopefully there will be no clouds and so on, and no rain especially. I think that's, personally, I wouldn't enjoy that, I think. Yeah, but that sounds pretty great. Hello, Social Dishes. Nice to have you here. I subscribed and saw you were live, so I thought I'd check in. Pull shut down. I didn't know. How come? Is it like legal complications or just not worth it financially? Okay. But anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate that. And Vishak, yeah, all the best. I hope it works out for you. No, the owner couldn't pay the server bills. That's like of a luxury problem usually. We say in IT, like if you have too much traffic so that you cannot scale or cannot pay the bills. Apparently, I don't know, was there any advertising on it? Maybe not, and that's why. Which is unfortunate, I think. Was interesting. So for those who don't know, PUL is short for Pretty Ugly Little Liar and was a forum where, I don't know, what's the purpose? It was essentially, it was a lot of, the part I read was like a lot of discussions about people who are doing videos in Japan like I do. I see. No advertising because it was against the philosophy. Okay. Probably also makes sense from a standpoint of being like neutral and not having any gossip side. Yeah, that's a that's probably the very, yeah, that's a good description. So I haven't been there too much. I didn't have an account, but I checked it every now and then. And then Missy Deluxe came to my channel one day and commented, and I recognized the thumbnail, so I could make the connection. Do you have any advice for moving to Japan? I'm currently living in Germany. Greetings. But would like to experience living in Japan as well. I've seen all of your videos. Oh, wow, great. Thank you so much. But would like to ask about advice from you and what were difficult cultural differences when you first moved to Japan. Thanks. Okay. So first of all, since you're in German, and if you're young, meaning 30 years, not older than 30 years, then you could come on a working holiday visa. That's probably like the easiest to get and the easiest way for you to verify if it's actually something you want to do. And also, if you do like that, then you can be here to find a job in Japan, which is easier than, because you have more options than when you do it from Germany. And also, because you're German and probably your first language, if you're living in German and you're German and your first language is not English, it might be a little harder for you to get an English teaching job if you want to do that. So it would be then even better for you to be here. And then now for the different cultural things, difficulties. So I think what was difficult, I don't know if it's cultural, maybe to some extent. So what was difficult for me was to come here. I was in Nagano and didn't know anybody, essentially. So in Germany, of course, I had my social circle, my friends, my family. And then here I had my wife and her family to some extent. But of course, there's a distance because I didn't speak Japanese well. And I was essentially new to the family. So essentially, this feeling of not being socially embedded was pretty difficult for me. Maybe lonely is a good word, every now and then. This changed mostly when I moved to Yokohama and so on, and then started working at a Japanese company. So hopefully, if you work in a Japanese company and have colleagues you have a lot of interactions with, this will not be an issue for you. Then culturally, I mean, the language, obviously, learn the language. Just if you come here, learn the language and learn to read. I mean, pronunciation doesn't need to be perfect. Obviously, it's really hard to do, but learn the language as good as you can, as fast as you can. Invest as much time as you can in the beginning to get that out of the way. And you will have a much, much better time. By the way, there's another YouTuber also from Nagano called Tokini Andy. And let me share this. And he makes great content around the Genki books, which are very popular Japanese learning books. So he essentially goes over every character and explains what's going on and so on. Also has a Patreon with a little bit more depth and shadowing practices, like to get you from native speakers. So essentially they say it first and then you try to repeat to get the pronunciation down. So if you're interested, maybe take a look. Just wanted to mention that. Then other than that, I think culturally, it's not one thing I can pinpoint. accept that it's different, and it's different on a layer that's much deeper than I could ever expect. So wait a second, let me search for one more book. Where was it? Sorry. So there's this book, The Chrysanthemum, if that's the pronunciation, and the Sword. There's also a German version if you're into that. This is Patterns of Japanese Culture. This was written in 1946, just after the war, Second World War. And it explains, I think it's not 100% accurate anymore now, but it still is a milestone in the anthropological way of looking at Japan. And I highly recommend this if you want to understand the Japanese culture a little deeper. Essentially, there are things I think the Japanese see. I bought that, yeah, and I read it. I might do a video about this. I'm considering it, but I would have to read it again for that. So essentially, there are things I think the Japanese see an absolute essential of culture and interaction that we don't even know about. And that's like a really fundamental misunderstanding. Or at least I don't see it like that. I don't think we have it in the West. So something called on, which is like, for example, if I talk to my wife, I ask my wife if she thinks about it like that, and it's the case. So if in the West, my understanding is if we raise children, we try to give them unconditional love, essentially. So we give them what we can for and expect nothing back. Essentially, just giving that is so joyful enough that that's it. However, in Japan, it's like your parents raised you, and you own to your parents for that, and you cannot pay them back, but you pay them back indirectly by raising your children as good as you can. So essentially, these connections of being obliged, maybe having responsibility to pay back. Or like, yeah, maybe that's how I can describe it. That's something that doesn't exist, I think, this strong in the West, or at least I don't understand it that way. And that's how I understand the Japanese, like, that's what's written in the book, essentially, right now at least. Maybe I will read it again and they then have a different understanding. And apparently, at least from what's written in this book, so Japanese tend to be a little bit passive sometimes with getting involved. And one of the reasons might be if you help somebody that does not ask for your help explicitly, you give them an on. Essentially, they owe you, essentially, because of that. And that's something you don't necessarily want to be, because that's, yeah, you essentially, you force them into owing you. This might be one of the reasons why they are a little bit more passive, at least in 1946. Not sure if that's still the case now. Now, this book is not free of criticism, I want to say that. So there are a lot of people that say this is like the sources are not of enough variety and so on. Yes, exactly. So that's the point Missy Deluxe just mentioning. Miss Benedict, who was writing this book, never set a foot in Japan when she did that. So her information came exclusively from prisoners, or almost exclusively from prisoners of war. And then, of course, not most of them didn't talk a lot, maybe, so it might have been very limited. So it's not free from criticism at all. So keep that in mind, and maybe don't use this as your only resource. Yeah. Still, I liked it and found it interesting. And what I want to say by that, armchair science. Yeah. I mean, in her defense, back then it was pretty difficult for a Japanese researcher to get into Japan to understand the culture. So the research was done during the war, and essentially to get an understanding on how to treat Japanese in a warlike situation. Yeah, armchair science, you might call it. So if you can, and please get also some other resources. And also, if you have anything good, then please share it with me. I would be more than interested. Then, what else should I talk about? I'm not sure. So if you have any more questions, just let me know. Chair science. Also, if the time does not work out well for you, then also let me know. So now 9:30 p.m. is comfortable for me, but I'm not sure if this is the best for your time zone for everyone. Obviously, it's not, but I mean, you get what I mean. It's actually a surprisingly accurate book, which is why it's so famous. Yes, it's also like there's a whole Nihon Jinron, which came. I don't know, maybe if it became after. Yeah, probably it came after that, kind of based on it or so. So this kind of nationalism that says we are Japanese and we like this and so on. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, at least even if it might be not accurate in all cases, at least this book made me ask questions like, is it really like that? Do you have this one thing and so on? And then, okay, we don't have it like that. And I was like, what? So also then Japanese get maybe a better understanding. What from Germany do you miss the most in Japan? My family, clearly, and my friends after that. That's not, I mean, that's a German thing, obviously, because they're German, but that's not cultural or so. So if they were here, and if they were here now, if they had moved to Japan with me, I wouldn't think about moving back to Germany ever, I think. But now they are there, so it's not decided, I think, right now. And apart from that, I mentioned last time, I like schnitzel, which is like battered meat and fried in a pan fried, stir fried, you said it. And yeah, it's like in Japan we have tonkatsu, which is kind of similar but very different still. So it looks similar, is made a little bit similar, but it's essentially not comparable if you're really into that, if you're like a connoisseur. If we are on that topic, how would you compare Germany and Japan? Do you see similarities and big differences? That's difficult to say. So yes. So my sister says we miss you too, a lot, loads, yeah. So comparing Germany and Japan, so I think, of course, there are always the things that people say, like Germans are also hardworking, Japanese are hardworking, and so on. Which is true, I guess. I mean, Germans by far don't work as much, but very efficient then, I guess. So we have much more holiday. We only work like 35 or 40 hours a week, which is also the official thing in Japan, but not the realistic thing. And that being apart from that, and I think also if you say you're from Germany, then you have a kind of a good standing mostly in Japan compared to other countries. So Germany has a good image in Japan, I think. That being said, Germans tend to be direct, or at least I tend to be pretty direct, and in my work, this sometimes has led to some issues. So somebody asked me a question, can you do this and that? And I said no. And like this very straight no to the point. That's something like, oh wow, I think we have to talk. Like what? So this happens. So, but like I can't say like this is like this in Germany, and then there's a totally different thing in Japan like this. So because essentially it's all human, but probably culturally, and also I've been getting used to Japan for the last 4 years, so maybe I don't see that much anymore. But probably if you're in Germany and then come to Japan, you see a lot more than I do now, and it will be one of the most different things you can get when visiting another first world company. I always say country. Like Schnitzel. Yeah, you also like Schnitzel. Wurst und Käse. Yeah, okay. So, but last week I had 2 days off because I worked on the weekend, so I had 2 replacement holidays. And on one day I went to the international supermarket and got Wurst and Käse, which is sausage and cheese, and it's so expensive. Goddamn, I paid like $39 for 2 pieces of cheese, a salami, and two beer, small German beers, which I will give to a colleague who has his last day this next week. $39. And after that, I went to a German bakery, which is the next station, and bought this large of a bread for $9 and 2 pretzels and like stick pretzel things, and together it was like $20 or so. This was expensive, but also pretty good because I don't have it a lot. So I like cheese a lot, I like sausages a lot. And the variety we have here in Japan is not comparable at all to anything we get in Germany. Yeah, Käse und Wurst und Käse, absolutely. Warum Wurst? Okay, somebody wrote it with a points over the U. That's a Ü compared to a U in German pronunciation. Maybe because Käse has also the A and the points, then it would be balanced to also have it on the Wurst. Yeah, in Japan, I've only found bad American cheese in a quotation marks. Yeah, they have like this analog cheese or something here. So like essentially it's called cheese, but I'm not sure if there's actually milk in there. So, and I try to avoid that. And now in supermarkets, you can get some variety of cheese. It's kind of pricey, but not too pricey as if you want to go to get to an international supermarket or so. It's also not so great though. So I buy like cream cheese, like Philadelphia or something, if you know that. But I don't usually get it in the supermarket. Now I got like the 2 I got was like a goat cheese, like this big of a piece, and a smaller one, which I forgot. I think it was from France, which is pretty wide. But yeah, that's the ones I got. I like to eat vegan pork heads. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, who doesn't? Vegan things also not so easy to get in this international supermarket. Again, you can get it. You can live vegan here. There are some restaurants, there are web pages which are specialized on that. But yeah, I'm not a vegan, so essentially I don't focus on vegan food, and I don't make vegan food tour videos. I have a friend though whose wife is vegan, and he also eats a lot of vegan, so there are definitely ways to do that. However, it's not, and I don't know about pork heads, so I guess it might be difficult. What things are surprisingly expensive in Japan? Japanese electronics. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I would expect that things like lenses, this or so, are at least cheaper than, or camera bodies, at least cheaper than in Germany, but it's maybe about the same or sometimes even more expensive, and definitely more expensive than in America. So that's pretty surprising. Then not surprising but expensive is living. So here, I live not in Tokyo itself. I live in Yokohama, and it's not close to the station. It's like 15 minutes walk, and it's still super expensive. I pay like $1,400 a month, which for me it's expensive compared to Germany. It's a mansion type, which is kind of a little bit more on the pricey side. It's rather new building, so that's why it's also more expensive than you could get it for, but it's kind of expected. And of course, if you go into the city center and have the same standard, then it gets a lot more expensive very fast. So I was working in Roppongi for some time, and sometimes you see like the advertisements, and they say like, okay, you can get this apartment. It's only like 4,000 euros a month, and I'm like, okay, great. Then I cannot eat. Yeah, but it's super expensive. And then obviously, it's Japan, so Japanese things are cheap in Japan, and non-Japanese things are not. Like I said, if you come to Japan and you want you definitely want to eat your schnitzel or something, and you want to go to a German restaurant, a specialized restaurant every week, then that's going to be fantastically expensive. Should I bring something next year? Schnitzel or Wurst? Yeah, Schnitzel. So first of all, you cannot bring meat or dairy products into Japan. That being said, I did that. I didn't know it was this regulation, and I wasn't checked at the airport, and probably you will not be checked. However, officially, you are not allowed to do that. And schnitzel, I guess that's not going to last long enough. However, usually I ask my friends to bring the breadcrumbs, because the ones here are a little bit thicker, bigger, and it's hard to make schnitzel with them in a pan. If you do it like if you fry the schnitzel, if you're a barbarian and do that, then you can do it with the panko we have in Japan as well. Anything Western is expensive. Yeah, I wouldn't say anything. For example, if you eat a burger, so here's a McDonald's as well, and it's cheap. But in general, yeah, it's so not anything. But the rule of thumb is if you get anything that's not mainstream and it's Western, then it's expensive. Food, but you mean fruit, right? Yeah, fruits. Oh, goddamn, it's expensive. Yeah. I mean, you really think twice here if you want to buy this melon or not, or like if you want to buy this 10 strawberries for 10 euros or not, or $10. That being said, here in my area there are like 4 fruit and vegetable shops, so I kind of compare and get it kind of cheap-ish. If you buy the seasonal products or bananas are almost always cheap, because Japan gets them from the Philippines and they are close. But yeah, generally, I think the reason probably is Japan is an island, so it's difficult or expensive to get things here. And if it's from Japan, not from outside, then it's grown in Japan, and that's expensive. That's my idea, at least. Should I? Fruit. If going, bring deodorant. Impossible to find and incredibly expensive for proper brands. Yeah, I do that actually. Last time when my mother came in December, I asked her to. I ordered on Amazon before that, and she brought two here, then to here. Yeah, I don't use it. I don't have to use it excessively, thankfully, because I don't move on my job, just my fingers. But yeah, that's correct. Also, train tickets are absolutely expensive. That's correct to some extent. If you take the Shinkansen, that's so expensive. Like, goddamn, it's expensive. If you come as a tourist, then you can use the JR pass, which might make it cheaper. So it's like 14 or 21 days. It's not super cheap at all. I think the cheapest might be like $300-ish. But then you can use all JR lines. And you can also use the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train. And it's fantastic to travel throughout the country. So if it makes sense for you financially, probably does if you go anywhere around. And for people living in Japan, they cannot do that. So it's even more expensive. For example, if I go to Nagano, which is 1.5 hours by bullet train, it's 8,000 yen, which is roughly $80. One way. So going back, it's like 160. Now that being said, there's also other trains which are not Shinkansen, and usually they're slow and cheap. And sometimes you can get like school holiday tickets, where you can then take not all the trains, many of the trains, and go to places if you have a lot of time on your hand. And of course, the small and slow trains are also nice because you can see more of the area, maybe get out somewhere, then get back on the train and so on. Try buying pizza in Japan. God damn, that's expensive. You're so right. Mostly. I mean, I have, when I was working in Roppongi, I had a pizza store called Savoy. It's actually a chain, but it's a really good chain. They only have 2 types of pizza. They have a wooden oven. And in the one I went, which is in Azabujuban, Savoy Azabujuban, that was so great. They make fantastic pizza. Maybe as good as in Italy. That being said, I haven't been to Italy for some time now because I live in Japan. But it's pretty good. And if you come for lunch, it's 1,000 yen, which is $10 for the pizza, a salad, and drinks are always included, like iced tea. So that's kind of the best deal you can get. Then if you order somewhere like Pizza Hut or Pizzara or somewhere in Japan or Domino's, I think that's pretty ridiculously expensive for what you get. I think it's not a good pizza for what I'm expecting. And after taking some of my colleagues to this pizza place, they also started not liking it anymore. And it's so expensive, like, I don't know what, $20, $30 or so for pizza, depending on what you take and how large. I mean, I have to be really desperate to do that. What do you enjoy the most in Japan other than family and friends? So I do enjoy practicing Aikido a lot. I enjoyed this in Germany a lot and still do it here. What I started enjoying here as well is teaching. So I taught in Germany and I found it kind of a burden or so, a little bit cumbersome maybe. I wanted to learn more, I want to be a student. But now I get to appreciate more, like essentially raising, educating your own students after having done this for like 3-4 years in total. So I enjoy Aikido anywhere. And I would love to do it more because now I can't because of Corona. I could, but I don't because I think it's not worth it, unfortunately. That's why I started running. By the way, I had my first 10-kilometer run last week. 10th run, and the first time 10 kilometers. And next day I was absolutely wasted. But it was great to have that. And I was super slow, like 1 hour, 20 minutes or so. So like, what's that, 8 kilometers per hour. So still I did it. And that's what counts. I mean, for me, in this, now I try to get faster. And other things I enjoy in Japan. I enjoy exploring Japan, which comes in handy with this channel. So I stopped filming when I explore Japan with my family because then I can focus on my family. But that's also why I started the Patreon again. So said it twice before in this live stream. If you want to check out my Patreon, it's live since 2 days ago. So I have 0 patrons now, but maybe take a look. It's linked in the description box. So yeah, I like exploring the country. I enjoyed it a lot, seeing new things and aspects. And I think I will never get sick of that. And yeah, I would love to take you on more of these explorations. Pizza is insane. Absolutely, Stephen. Absolutely. Yeah, it's insanely expensive and it's not as good in most of the places. That being said, now let me extend a little more. Right on the day I moved from that office in Roppongi to another one, a pizza store opened close to here, and it's just like, I think the big pizza is 800 yen or so, $8-ish. And it's pretty nice. He's a nice guy. We kind of business friends or so. Transportation is part of the pay package at many companies, so employees pay only approximately half. Yes, that's correct. For my company, it's like an upper limit, but if you are within this limit, like, let's say, I think I paid like 25,000 or so per month when I was still going to the office in my previous, when I went to Roppongi and when I still went to the office, and this was all covered by my company. So for commuting, usually there's some support. Ich bin ein Guffela, sagt, yes. It's an insider. From Tokyo to Kyoto, I paid 110 euros for the one-way ticket. Yeah, I can imagine that. That's so expensive. That being said, it's pretty nice and super smooth. Like, I remember when my friends visited me, I came to Japan on the 7th of July, and on the 11th, 2 friends came and visited me. So I left my pregnant wife and took a round trip with my friends, and we went from Tokyo to Osaka the next day, and we discussed, should we take the train or the bus? And the train is like, I don't know, what is it, 1.5, 2 hours, and the bus is 7. And I was so happy we took the train. So it's pretty pricey, but it's also pretty convenient and super smooth. Yeah. Domino's always offers 50% of coupons, which makes it a great deal on a large pizza. Oh, it's interesting to know. That being said, again, I'm not too much of a fan of this. Yeah, the way they treat pizza, because I'm used. I went. I have a lot of relatives living in Italy, and I went to Italy a lot as a kid. So my image of pizza is like this image of like you have tomato sauce, you have cheese, and then maybe some ham or something, but you don't put things like mayonnaise on a pizza. So I'm always surprised when I see that. Okay, but anyway, if you're into Domino's, then you can get offers like this. I think there's also sometimes, depending on where, I don't know which it was, might have been Domino's, where you have like buy one and get another one for free or so. Have you enjoyed the miracle that is Japanese fluffy pancakes yet? Yeah, I did. Last time, not frequently though. I think last time was 2017, winter 2017 in Yokohama, before I lived here. My wife eats them every now and then, but I'm not the biggest pancake fan. That being said, maybe if I find some kind of special pancakery, then I could go there and make a video. So contact them, and then if they like that. Interestingly, now finally that I contact a couple of companies, it turns out they usually say yes. So apparently 17,000 subscribers is enough to get companies to say yes. They don't pay you, but they allow you to film, which is much more relaxed than trying to secretly or something film something and then be weird in front of the camera, like, or stressed out. Have you enjoyed? No, I said that. I tried to send you a great chat super chat, probably you mean, but did not work. I appreciate that, Benjamin. I appreciate that. Congratulations on a 10 kilometers run. Is running popular where you live? I think so. So on the weekend, when I go by that river, then usually there are always people running. That being said, I run in the evening. During the day, there are people. I run in the evening, there's nobody, or maybe one or two others. And I do that, one, because it's not as hot. So I leave that up to the more experienced runners. And two, because my children are sleeping and so on, and I did what I have to do for the day. And three, because there are no other people, and I can keep a social distance more easily. Thank you for all the questions. How much of the time do you work on this channel on top of a full-time job? Maybe 2-3 hours a day. Yeah, depends. So if I go to the office, I cannot do it as much because I have to get up earlier. But now, usually my kids maybe sleep at 8, and then I work until 1. That's actually longer, right? But I also procrastinate or something on learn Japanese and so on. But maybe 2 or 3 hours on average. So I never do that when my kids are awake. That's a strict policy I have. Yeah. So when I was on parental leave, then I would sometimes do like 6 hours a day. I made a video called "Everything You Know, All You Need to Know About Tokyo, Everything You Need to Kyoto, Everything You Need to Know About Kyoto," and this took like 160 hours to make. So essentially 1 month of full-time work, and this was mostly created in that time because I could do it. But now it's like 2-3 hours maybe. The difficult thing is to film outside, because I have to go outside, go to the location, and this alone takes a lot of time. So then I would have to take probably a day off or so and explain to my wife. So that's one of the reasons why recently I do a lot of videos inside. When I was in Nagano from the beginning of March until end of May, I was doing more outside because essentially when I was at home and my family was at home, I couldn't do it because it was too loud. It's not. This is a mansion type which has concrete walls in some areas and is more sound isolating, but this was not. It's Apato type, which is essentially with walls made of thick paper. So I would have to go outside. Yeah. Do you prefer northern or southern Japan? I have never been to the south more, like more than, I think the most south I was Osaka or so. This area, Kyoto, I don't know, probably it's Osaka. So the north. I like the north because it reminds me of Germany a bit. So there are mountains and snow and stuff. But I will definitely go to south. So we are considering. So you might know there has been some support for anybody living in Japan for longer than 3 months by the government to battle the COVID-caused recession or economic decline. So everybody got 10,000 yen, 100,000 yen, which is like $1,000. And we have 4 in our family, so we got 400,000. So we probably, once we can travel again, we take some of that and travel a little bit to the south, like Kyushu. That's the southernmost of the 4 big islands in Japan. Which environment do you prefer for your children to grow up in, Germany or Japan? I'm not sure. So on the one hand, I think Germans are a little bit more. So my concern is racism on the one hand. I know it exists in Germany. It also exists here. But the thing is, in Japan, I get it, and in Germany, my kids get it. Maybe they also get it here. I'm not sure. And from the educational standpoint, I don't like either. I think Japan, or both the Japanese and the German school system have something good, but I think they, in generally, so I'm more experienced in the German one, and the German needs a lot of work, I think. So I would definitely send my kids to private schools, and I would also do that in Japan. But so I'm absolutely not sure when it comes to my children. I think I would have more time for them in Germany because I would work less hours and have more holidays. So that maybe, yeah, that's a nice one. And of course, I would like to see them speak German on a native level, which is kind of hard to do here if they don't go to a German school. And why? Yeah, that's kind of why. Northern Japan equals 4 seasons. Southern Japan equals always summer or rain. Yeah, and humid. Depends on how south you go, I guess. And then sometimes we have a little bit of typhoons. You also have it in the north, definitely not as much. So in the 1.5 years in Nagano, it always said like the typhoon is coming, and then all we got like was a little bit of rain and wind, because essentially Japanese Alps just filter out everything. Are we live? I think so, yeah. I hope so. It says live here. There is no southern Japan. There's western, eastern, and northern. Yeah. I mean, you know what I actually would like to visit? Tokyo has islands as well. So Tokyo Prefecture. It's not called prefecture in Japanese. It's like a metropolitan prefecture. And they are like way south, like 1,000 kilometers. And I would like to go there. It's like some of them have like no, like once every couple of days connection by ship. Takes like a day to get there. I would like to visit that. And maybe make a video. So yeah. So now it's already almost 80 minutes, and I still have to go running. So probably we should call it a day soon. So let's say maybe 1 or 2 more questions if you have any. And after that. Okay, so now it's 10:50 p.m. So after that, call it a day for today. And if you don't have any questions, then we do it even sooner. I love Hokkaido. Sapporo is a big city with everything, but it is a young, big city, so no bad attitude. How is it where you live? So I have never been to Sapporo yet. I think even my wife hasn't. I would love to go there. Also, because I think exploring Hokkaido in general would be nice. And here, so I can't compare to Sapporo, but comparing to Nagano, people are less polite here. Maybe it's like more dense and people are more in a hurry and so on, so they focus more on getting to where they want to be. And in Nagano, it's a little bit more spacious. People have more space in their heart, so they greet you more. Yeah, it's a little bit less polite here, I think. So maybe it might be the same if you compare it to Sapporo. What's your average room temperature these days? I think 28.7. Yesterday evening was something like this. And now I put the air conditioner on 26, so kind of 27 maybe then. Because I have the lights here around me, and they're nice to look at, but they're also getting hot. So even though most of them are LEDs. All right, thanks for talking to us. Have a nice evening and see you soon. I hope so. Red 110M. 1110M. I hope so. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for your time today. I always appreciate that. Oh, interesting. I feel the difference is comparable to a Tokyo attitude equals Berlin attitude, but countryside people are very warm and friendly. Yeah, that's also how I felt that. How much snow do you have in the winter? Okay, so one more. In Tokyo, in the last 2 years, was one day, I think. Maybe it was even the same day or just one day apart. And it's like, it snows and then it's gone. It's like not even, it doesn't stay to the evening. And in Nagano, it's more, but it's getting less, depending on where you are. So in Nagano City, there's always some days. So when I was there in March, there was snow, which was great. I love snow. And in the mountains, of course, it is there. But this year it was a little bit tough, I think. I have a friend who has a hotel in the mountains. So the 2 main seasons are summer, when the schools go there for the training camps, like judo and so on, and winter when there's snow. But if there's no snow, then that's only one season, which is tough. Yeah, Hokkaido has up to 3 meters of snow. Yeah, so I think the 2 most snowy places in the world, snowy cities, are actually in Japan. So that's that. So now let me continue with me ending this live stream. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate the 15 people of you giving the video a like. And I plan to do this again next Sunday. So if you have time, I would love to see you again. Until then, look out for the other videos that will come the next week. Have a nice evening. Thank you again, and see you next time. Now I have to click again, so I cannot end this post. Okay, so have a nice evening, day, or anything. A great life. See you.